worry about what other people have to say. Worry about yourself, worry about your mental health, your sanity, and you being okay. Into yabantu guys uzoyibona after school, because honestly, that's not how you should run your life. Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and thank you so much for joining me yet again. If it is your first time here, and on this channel we chat about all things related to managing your money and adulting in general. So if that sounds like your type of vibe, please make sure that you check out our other videos, and if you like what you see and what you hear, don't hesitate, smash the subscribe button and become a member of the team. Okay guys, so today we are doing a recap episode. This is episode 2 of our recap series. We are recapping How to Get Rich on Netflix, obviously, because we love all things related to money and financial conversations. So if it is your first time here, you're probably wondering, okay, what's going on? Seems like I'm a bit lost. So we decided to recap some of the episodes on the How to Get Rich on Netflix series. So please do check it out. And if you're too lazy to check it out, at least watch episode 1, which is on the channel. That's where I unpack and introduce some of the characters so you can get to know them. If you watch that episode, you should be able to catch on and understand what's going on from here onwards. So pause this video if it is your first time, go and watch episode 1, and then come back to hear how things unravel. And guys, I've got a lot to say about this episode, especially because between me and you, I feel like my financial instincts are on lock, because I anticipated and I predicted a lot of what ended up happening in episode 2, or what's starting to happen, or what we're starting to see in episode 2. Okay. By the way, guys, totally unrelated something. This is the first time ever that I am recording late at night with lighting. I usually do daytime, but go busy guys, go busy, kuningi and one, and I'm trying to catch balls everywhere. So I was like, you know what, Andy, so this obsession of yours of doing like videos during the day only when the sun is out is just ridiculous, because you don't have the time. So please start exploring like nighttime videos as well. And Usli, actually, Uslindile, I think you guys know her, Slindile Kubone's Moments. She plugged me on this lighting a long time ago, but I didn't use it. Like, I didn't end up using it. I just bought it and parked it, and I was using my tripod. So today I was like, I have to record episode 2 of the series. I did promise you guys that I would unpack more than one episode. So I was like, you know what, it's late at night, but I can do it now. So let me just get onto it. All right, I digress. Let's get back into it now. Now, as per usual, our structure is unpacking the different families and different characters in the story, and me just sharing my thoughts on what I think about each of them. Let's start with our favorite couple, Matt and Amani. Trouble in Paradise. Did I not say this in episode 1? So guys, Matt and Amani had a bit of a squabble about some of the questions that they were asked to answer and reflect on. And because of this, they decided to take a break from the series. So I did do a sneak peek, and I know that they come back. But for now, they've decided that, you know what, they're on pause. They don't think they can do this. They're not ready and all of that stuff. And they communicated this to the host. Surprised? No, I'm not surprised at all. I did say that this couple is giving, we've got a lot to work through as a couple. And for me, it's gone beyond money. Sometimes it starts with money, and then it goes deep, and then it goes into other areas of your life, like your self-confidence, your ego, your inability to admit when you're wrong, your inability to own up when you are responsible for something. I just got a lot of issues from that couple from get-go. So when they said that they want to take a pause and they want to just reflect, I said yes, I completely understand. It makes a lot of sense. They've got a lot of stuff to work through. And I think before I move on, something that we need to take away from this, guys, is the fact that money is emotional. Money is sensitive. Money is sentimental. Money touches in areas that you never thought that it could touch, right? And we really need to understand this, particularly when we ask people to seek help when it comes to finances and money. It's not an easy thing, guys, because remember, usually money is linked to your ability or inability to do the things that you love and to do the things that you enjoy, or even the lack of ability to do the things that you love and to take care of the people that you love. So it's got a lot of emotion and psychology linked to it. So please bear this in mind when you want to advise someone to seek financial help, that they need to be ready. They need to have worked through the underlying issues that they already have before they get to the point where they can start focusing purely on the financial journey. And this is what I sense with Matt and Amani. And I'm not surprised that they want to take some time to reflect. And I'm glad that I saw that they do come back. I hope they come back not because they want to continue the series, but honestly because they've worked through some of the foundational stuff that they need to address before they embark on this joint financial journey. So that's Matt and Amani there. And then our favorite rich aunt, Natalie. Natalie. Guys, Natalie missed her maintenance payment for the month, or alimony as they call it in the US, or support, child support, however you want to look at it, but her income, right? She missed her main income, and so she didn't miss it, but it came late. And because of that, some of her monthly payments bounced and she was under, like she was in a minus and she needed to borrow money. So here's the thing. That's not something that's completely unusual, okay? It's not something that we haven't heard of, or it's the first time we're hearing somebody's missing payments and all of that stuff. But what makes this unusual, guys, is that Natalie has a lot of money. She's got a lot of money that's coming in every month, okay? I think it's about $25,000, not rands, but dollars, right? And she's convinced that she's okay. She doesn't need any help. She's rich. She can get whatever she wants whenever she wants it. So when this happens, Andisa thinks that, okay, this lady is going to get a rude awakening. You think everything is under control, but it's actually not. And the money that's coming in is not an indication of how healthy your finances are. But Ugel is like, nope, she's fine. She doesn't think that this is something that she needs to stress about. She borrowed $1,000 from her friend to cover the shortfall, and she's okay. Everything is A-okay. She's going to be fine. This was a minor setback. And I can see that the host is like, whoa, why do you think that, you having so much money still didn't prevent this from happening? And then she gives a very clear answer that I should have had savings and I should have managed my expenses better to make sure that I'm not always living paycheck to paycheck, especially if the paycheck is so much. She gives that answer, guys, but I get the sense that she is just in denial, to be honest. I don't even want to tiptoe around it. Natalie's in denial. She's in denial about the financial issues that she has. She's in denial about the fact that income does not always determine wealth, and it's not always equal to wealth. And sometimes you can be earning a really good salary, but your finances are spinning out of control. And because you're so absorbed, or you're so focused on the fact that you get a good income, you don't want to pay attention to what happens or does not happen after that income comes in. And that's what I'm getting from Natalie. I'm getting a lot of denial from her part. And I think that she just doesn't think she needs the help. She came onto the show to get help on starting a new business and starting it right. But in terms of her personal finances, it's only her daughter who thinks that she needs help. And guys, please take this tip for your own family members. You may know that your family member needs help. You may understand and see that your family member needs help. But if your family member is not emotionally, psychologically in the mindset that I admit that something is wrong and I need to change, there's nothing you can do. And it goes back to the first couple as well, which is Matt and Amani. There's nothing your spouse can do. There's nothing your daughter that can do. There's nothing your mother can do to convince you that you have a problem, and you need to start working towards it. So financial help, guys, and financial support and financial advice is not something that we should force on our loved ones. It's something that we should wait for our loved ones, or rather guide and support our loved ones to a point where they feel like they are ready. Otherwise, A, they bail out too soon, or B, they go through the process, but because they're in denial and they don't think they need the help, it doesn't work out anyway. And that's what I'm seeing from Natalie, right? Is the fact that she's like, I don't know why people are stressing. I get a lot of money. I'm rich. I've got bags. I've got clothes and cars. I've got a nice house, and I honestly don't need this. I just need to start a business, right? So that's where Natalie's at, and that's what we see in episode 2. So let's get into the second thing, right? The second thing is the fact that we see the host very passionate about the fact that Natalie is paying about 1% to her financial advisor for managing her portfolio, and the host thinks that this is unfair and this is too much money. He's calculating, in dollar, like real terms, how much he's actually paying the advisor, and he feels like it's too much. Some of the work Natalie can do herself, and she can save on advice fees by doing this. So let me just have my small opinion when it comes to this topic, which doesn't necessarily align to what the host believes, right? So here are my very personal views on fees and financial advice fees and fixed versus percentage, right? So guys, we're not going into detail about what happened in the episode. I'm just recapping my thoughts. So if you get a bit lost, it might help if you have the context of the actual episode. Anyway, he disagrees with the fact that it's percentage based. He feels like it should be a fixed structure and the advisor should not be getting a percentage. When it comes to making decisions on fees, at least for my portfolio, I look at the fee structure, but what's most important to me is what is the fees relative to the return. I don't look at the fees in isolation. I don't care if you're charging me 500 Rand, as long as you're making me 1,000 Rand or 1,500 Rand at least, right? Then I can pay for that, because sometimes when you look at fees in isolation and you don't look at the return, it doesn't make sense to say, oh, I'm very excited that this advisor charges me half, but he's also making you less than half of what the other advisor was going to make you. It doesn't make sense for me to look at the fact that, oh, I want you to charge 50 cents, but you're making me 30 cents, or you're making me 60 cents, and then I'm saving on fees, but my returns don't make sense. So that's how I feel about this fee structure thing. Is I don't think it should be looked at in isolation, but it should be looked at in terms of what is the return that you are getting, right? Because even if the advisor is charging you a crazy thing like 10%, but if he's making you 60%, then you're still better off than you would have been with the advisor who charges you 1%. So I don't necessarily agree that, we should be super against fee structures and we shouldn't say yes to percentages. We should only say yes to fixed amounts. And that's my personal view. And there's also two ways to think about this, guys. If you pay an advisor a percentage of your portfolio, that immediately means that they've got an incentive to make sure that that portfolio grows, because the more the portfolio grows, the more they get to take out of the return. So if they can help grow your portfolio to double, it means that they get double what they would have had the portfolio stayed the same. So which means you've both got skin in the game. So you can look at it that way as well. On the flip side, if the advisor is commission based by percentage, it means that it could influence the decisions that they make, right? And sometimes they don't necessarily recommend things that they should, because it's more for their incentive and not yours. So the bottom line is that there's pros and there's cons. But particularly when it comes to investments, I'm just trying to find out, what are you making me? Think about it from a product perspective. Some of you go to the nail lady down the street to do your nails. Other people go to a fancy salon in Sandton because of the experience, because of how long their nails last, because of the quality, because of the way of work and the professionalism. They're willing to pay a premium because overall it makes more sense to them. Meanwhile, on the other side, you could do it for cheaper, but what will the end product look like, and what will it be like, and will it last you? That's the way I look at fees. I just want to know at the end, what am I getting? Yes, you're charging me this, but what am I getting? So I don't necessarily agree with him in the sense of, the fact that it should always be a fixed fee. And that is the reason why. The other thing with Natalie is the fact that she wants to start a business, and the host encourages her to, do her own research and stop outsourcing so much and try to crunch the numbers herself. Guys, I love keeping money. I don't like spending money. But at the same time, I am a believer of outsourcing when you feel like you are in way over your head and you don't know why you're doing. Because often we try to fiddle with things that we don't understand and we end up breaking them and we end up in a worse position because we didn't allow the professionals to do their job. I always liken it, I always make this example with money, and I'm like, because I studied financial planning and economics, I'm always like, when it comes to other industries, I wouldn't build a house because I didn't study construction or engineering. I wouldn't, go and make myself an expert in nursing because that's not my degree. But when it comes to money, everybody just wants to do their own thing because they feel like they have enough knowledge. And that's just not the case, guys. It's never the case. If someone has invested time and effort in learning something, they obviously get better and better at it, and their experience adds on to that. So you can't come with your own Google knowledge and then think you can compete with that. So my thoughts on her doing her own business plan and whatever, I think she needs to understand what goes into a business plan. But if she knows she's not great at numbers and she's not great at managing expenses or future projections, I'm not mad at her outsourcing that stuff to someone who's really good at it and who's a professional and who's going to do it right. But it's all about choosing the right person. Obviously, if you choose the wrong person, you would have been better off doing it yourself, right? But guys, I really, really feel strongly about this thing of outsourcing because I feel like we waste too much effort, time, money, and we risk a lot trying to fiddle with things we know nothing about, as opposed to just saying, you know what, let me pay you a premium for the fact that you have this knowledge and experience and just get it done. I do it in cases where I feel like this is not my forte. I would rather that than, touch on things that I don't understand and end up messing them about. So again, I don't really agree with the host in terms of her getting invested. I do think she needs to understand why she's starting a business, what the business is about, how much it's going to cost, and all of that stuff. But when it comes to the nitty-gritties, I really think she can outsource that. Lastly, at the end, we find out that our rich aunt is now buying a house. Oh God, guys. Our rich aunt is buying a house. She downgrades. She sold her house because she wanted to downgrade, find something smaller and more comfortable, and then all of that good stuff, which I completely agreed with. But now she says she bought a house, she put an offer on a house, and she wants to buy a house, and it's bigger, it's beautiful, and all of those things. Again, guys, it goes back to that thing that I said in the beginning, that when a person is not ready and when they are not in the position where they think they need help or they need to change their behavior, there's nothing you can do about it. You can push them to the river, but you can't make the horse drink. You can even take the horse's head and shove it in the river, in the water, but you can't make the horse drink. If the horse is not thirsty, or they feel like the water is contaminated, or they don't want it, they don't want it. And this is something I want us to really take away from the Natalie situation, because here she is, committing to something and doing something else. And it's because she's not invested in the process, because she doesn't think she needs the help. She thinks she's fine. So she's continuing to live her best life on a budget that just goes oops after one late payment, but she doesn't think she has a problem, so she continues to live her best life. So I'm interested to see what unravels in that area and what happens to her. So I just wish her the best, guys. And this happens so often where you are so focused on the amount of money that you earn that you think you're fine and you think everything is okay, and you think money management is about the salary you receive, when it's not. It's not about how much you get, it's about how much you keep. There could be someone earning half your salary, but from a net worth perspective doing better. So don't focus on the income alone. Focus on what happens after the income gets in. Am I financially stable? Am I able to sustain myself? In cases of emergency, like what happened to Natalie, will I be okay, or will something happen to my finances? So that's very important. So that was Natalie. I really want to see what she ends up doing and not doing, and whether she takes any of this advice, or even if she actually takes this whole process seriously. I don't know. And then we have Monique and Danelle. I really love this couple, guys. Black love, hello. I really love this couple and I enjoy them a lot. So they are busy trying to work through their bad debt or their credit. Very common problem. And I see that they are holding on to their savings quite a lot. I think the fact that they are sort of cutting down, making sacrifices, and putting everything towards their debt, it's giving them a lot of anxiety, and they just feel like they're not progressing and they're not doing the things that they love. And this happens often when you're working towards debt, because it's almost like, I always say, it's almost like you feel like you're throwing sand at a leaking hole, and you're not seeing that you're progressing because you're paying stuff off, but you don't see anything physically. So when you buy a bed or like clothing or whatever, you see what you purchase and it makes you feel good. But when you pay off debt, you don't see it, and it's like, am I even doing anything? Am I even progressing? And this is what they are going through. And I'm glad that they end up agreeing to saying, you know what, let's use some of the savings that we have in order to settle some of our debt. Because guys, saving while you have debt makes a lot of emotional sense. It feels good, but it doesn't make any financial sense. It doesn't make any common sense, because like the example that I often use, you've borrowed money from the bank, they're charging you 16 Rand every month to pay that off in interest, and you've saved money with the bank, and in return they're giving you 6 Rand per month for that interest. So you are receiving 6 Rand and feeling good emotionally, but out of that 6 Rand, you're paying 16 Rand, so you minus 10. And that's one of the reasons why you feel like you're not progressing with your finances, is because you're not paying attention to the debt, guys. And avoiding debt, you can avoid other things, or you can try to avoid other things, but debt is just not something that you can try and avoid when you're trying to solve for your finances, because it's going to be a minus 10. Then next month, it's going to be like minus 16 plus 6, and you're still going to be in a minus. So it's very important to focus on your debt. And something else that I see from the couple as well, that's starting to unravel, is the reason why they're in the position they are in is because each party sort of values and enjoys specific things, and they want to spend their money on those things. And what's happened now is that each party has just decided that, you know what, Danelle, you love this, you spend your money on it, I'm not going to ask you any questions. And you know what, Monique, you love this, and you enjoy it, I'm not going to ask you about it because it's your money. And they've sort of started to manage their money separately. Guys, we've spoken on this channel about different marriage regimes and all of that stuff. Even with those different marriage regimes, when it comes to managing money, you got to tackle that stuff together, because money leads to the decisions that you make, the things that you prioritize, and what's important to you. And for you to be with a partner and it be you do what you want, I do what I want, it's not going to work out, especially when you start having things like kids, because you're going to have joint expenses that you are both liable for. And how that other party behaves with their money is ultimately going to affect you. And there's no running away from that. You might say, oh, whatever, you earn your salary, I earn mine, let's operate like roommates. But if you are not invested in the behavior and what they do with their money, at the end of the day, guys, if your husband or your wife is in trouble, there's no way you're not going to sacrifice what you have in order to bail them out. So why let it get there? Why let them run loose without your contribution or your thoughts, only to have to save them at the end? Money is not something that you can avoid in a relationship, guys. You have to tackle it. It's difficult, it's not easy, but you have to tackle it. And I feel like Danelle and Monique are now getting to a point where they are starting to look at their joint goals, right? They're starting to say, look, you buying those sneakers, you buying those jeans is setting us back. It's not healthy. Let's move forward. Let's try, take it back, return it. Let's engage in each other's financial decisions. And Monique actually says, if we're going to achieve these joint goals, we need to do it together. We can't do it apart. And when she said that, I was like, yes, because guys, I'm telling you, like, even if there's a partner that's not earning an income, they need to be involved in their finances, because even if they're not earning, they might be spending. And if they are spending without understanding what's coming in, there's going to be a problem. If they are spending without understanding what the family commitments are, what the bond looks like, what this household runs on, there's going to be trouble. You need to be involved, guys, when it comes to money. There's no two ways around it. Again, I know it's not easy, but it's definitely necessary to have those kind of conversations. Right. Lastly, we are introduced to Sofina. Sofina's young. I'm not sure if she does gymnastics or she's a dancer. Excuse me, I can't really remember, but she's in that space. And she's very proud to have bought her first condo, or I would say townhouse or apartment in our terms, and she's really proud, and she's finished it with a credit card, and she was really happy, right? She was happy up until the real cost of owning that property started to sink in. So when she started to add the numbers and she started to take into account the extra costs, like levies, for example, they call it HOA, but it's levies essentially, right? It's what you need to pay to the body corporate or whatever in order to run, whoever runs the complex or whatever area you're in and looks after the building. You guys are familiar with levies. So she didn't factor in levies when she bought the property. She just concentrated on the bond and the bond alone. And something else she didn't factor in is the interest as well. Guys, when it comes to property, it's such a serious it's such a serious purchase. And I feel like this conversation and this topic is so important even now because of the rising interest rates. It's so important for us to talk about these things, that maybe you bought the property and you thought you could afford it, but you didn't really watch Anderson's playlist on how to buy property and understand the different things that you factor in. And people make those mistakes, guys, because information is not as easily available as we sometimes would like it to be, or we sometimes think it is. And she finds herself in that position. And honestly, guys, the more she unpacks what's important to her and what she values travel, she values flexibility, she values experiences. And the more she unpacks what truly matters to her and what's important to her, the more, to me, it sounds like giving up the property wouldn't be such a bad idea. But of course, we don't like to put that out there because now you've made this purchase. People know you drive that BMW. People know you drive that Merc. And now you don't want anyone to be questioning whether or not you could afford it. So you're holding on to it for dear life because you don't want anyone to know that you bought this thing, you made a mistake, and now you need to get rid of it. And I think that's what Sofina is honestly suffering from, because she keeps saying, I had such a great party and housewarming. Everybody was here celebrating with me. I'm the only person that I know in my age group who was able to achieve something like this. And there's a lot of external pressure that she's putting on herself to keep this condo, even though she can't afford it. Guys, she's at the point where she's bathing with cold water every single day. Like, she's taking a cold shower every day because the body corporate or housing committee is not fixing it for her, and she doesn't have the money to fix it herself, because between her debt repayments and her bond and housing costs, she doesn't have space to breathe, right? So she can't fix it herself. So she's in this beautiful condo that she's proud of. She's taking cold showers. And this happens so often, guys, where we make financial decisions that we see are mistakes, but we hold on to them for dear life and we don't want to let go. And we end up, because of abantu bazotini syndrome, not wanting to cut ties with those big things. And then we end up suffering beyond measure to a point where we can't even come back. And the host is like, okay, you've got 3 choices. You either, number 1, don't do anything. Number 2, you make small changes that might help you breathe a little bit and keep you a bit over water. Or you need to make some big decisions. And she knows that that big decision is to sell the condo. And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when I have conversations with people and they're like, Andiswa, I've cut everything I possibly can. I'm spending the bare minimum, but my expenses are too high. And my income is not enough. And often when people say that, I ask them like, okay, but what's left on your budget? And they're like, okay, my car, my house, and the cost thereof of that, and probably like food and basic things like that. And when they say that, it's almost like they ignore the house and the car on the budget. It's like, I'm not even going to look at the house and the car because those things I'm not going to let go of. I'm going to look at everything else. But the reality, guys, is the fact that if you have cut everything you can and the only thing that's left is that condo or that apartment and that car, then you might need to downgrade. I'm sorry to say, and I know that it's not easy, and I know that it's a difficult decision that's tied to a whole lot of other factors. But guys, you might need to downgrade. It's painful. It sucks. everybody knows you bought your first property. Like, imagine me, like I did a whole series on this channel on how to buy your property and prepare, and now to come back and say, well, I had to sell the property because I couldn't afford it. Of course it's not easy, and I understand that, but guys, sometimes it's necessary, because at the end of the day, you are the one going to bed with those bills. You are the one going to bed with that car repayment. Nobody else feels what you feel. The only people who feel it and suffer from it is your family members that you care about. So all I'm saying is that I don't know what Sofina is going to do. I don't know how she's going to handle that decision, but tiptoeing around the elephant and acting like there's other things that can still be done, other than the one thing that needs to be done, doesn't help, because you're bleeding. It's like you're bleeding every month, and there's something that you can do to just cut, and you don't want to make that decision because it's painful. And it is painful, like I said, I can definitely understand that. But sometimes it's absolutely necessary, and something that you need to bring yourself to do, even though it sucks. Don't worry about what other people have to say. Worry about yourself, worry about your mental health, your sanity, and you being okay. Into yabantu, guys, uzoyibona after school, because honestly, that's not how you should run your life. So guys, that is the end of the episode 2 recap. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. I actually love chatting to you guys about these things, because whenever I watch things or I read books, particularly when it comes to finances, which I'm very passionate about, I have a million thoughts that I usually just give to Mr. M. So I'm really glad to have you in the room and to be chatting you through some of the questions that I ask and the things that I realize when I watch some of this stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, as per usual, please give it a huge thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, please consider subscribing so you can become a part of the team, and I can see you in the next video. Bye, guys.